7 o'clock now, so we can call the meeting to order. I don't know if we have to wait.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn since I'll take a 10-minute recess since the first applicant is rescheduled.
Okay.
Second?
No.
Why?
If Carrie General doesn't second, I will second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10-minute recess.
I hear somebody. Who's
7:10.
listening over there?
Meeting will come back to order. Mr. Rubin.
Yes.
Come on over.
No, I'd see. Look at this. Physical, just here a couple months ago.
Hi, I'm Ellen Fiella. I think we've met before.
We have, yes.
Hi. Paul Allen, Deb Netta, Steve, Maureen.
We've never met, welcome.
Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
That was boring, but I'm actually an electrical mechanical engineer by trade. My specialty is building power plants. Been doing that for about 25 years. Heavily licensed in the trades. I've been doing this for a very long time. Permitted a lot of power plants, so a lot of experience on that end. That's what I do as a full-time job. But I also own a business here in Saugus. I own the Reuben and Thompson Assisted Living, which is a 9-unit home that specializes in Alzheimer's and dementia. So I had a lot of experience in, as a business owner, in town as well as construction. So, and also I've been on the zoning board of appeals as an alternate member for about 10 years now. So, actually, I was just literally reappointed a few months ago. So I was doing the same thing recently.
You've been on for 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
About that. Give or take a year, so gets a little blurry.
So you have a lot of certifications.
Yes.
A lot of certifications.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a workaholic.
Okay.
So that's what my wife always tells me. So
Okay.
I tend to take on a little too much because I kind of enjoy it.
Of course, we don't know anything about that, do we?
What about any questions?
I'll start off with a question.
Sure.
Eric, just a quick question. What recommendations would you make to improve the process of the zoning board of appeals if given the opportunities?
That's a very difficult question. I think it's very well, it's a good system right now. I don't think I really would change much now. Being as an alternate, I really haven't really delved into that. Once I'm a permanent member, that may change my opinion. But one of the things that I would like to see more of is of more input from the building inspector. Because a lot of the times we're hearing cases that he's denied. So I definitely there's times where I think I get more collaboration with the building inspector. I'd like to see some more of that. I definitely think it's the way some of the things are presented. It is tricky for businesses, and I think as a zoning board, you have to understand some of the hardships that these businesses have, especially with this tight economy. And I know there's a signed bylaw. I think the signed bylaw, could use a little revamping and try to work with some of these businesses to get them the proper signage that they need, to be able to stay alive. And we're seeing, a lot. I can't believe Hilltop's out of business. You've seen a lot of businesses that are having a very difficult time thriving in this economy. So I definitely would like to see down the road some possible changes there. But at this point, I think it's in pretty good shape. At this point, I was just kind of looking from the outside, but now being a permanent member, that may change things.
Thank you.
So you have been an alternate for 10 years. You'd
Yes.
like to become a permanent. And when you're an alternate, do you go to all the meetings, or do you just go to some of the meetings?
For a long time, I did, but not, there's a lot. I had a lot of other meetings on Thursday night, so I would kind of alternate. If they asked me to sit, I would always be there. But I did try to make most of the meetings. Yes.
So being a permanent member, you would like to do that because
Yeah,
I know
like-
you're a workaholic, but
Right. I like to continue on to actually be more active. And and it's right now there's a huge void to fill, which was Peter Bogdan. He kind of, to me, he brought the whole engineering side. So I kind of feel that now that's lacking. So I think I'd be a good, well, nobody can really take Peter Bogdan's place. Let's face it, he was an amazing man. I could never, even come close to what he could do. But I think definitely going to be lacking that engineering, perspective on things.
Thank you.
So I think that'd be a good thing.
I have nothing.
Mrs. Stone?
Mr. Rubin, first of all, you run a wonderful business down on Houston Ave as a
Thank you.
nurse. I'm very well aware of it, and you have a very good reputation.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'd like to follow up on Mr. Allen's question.
Sure.
I think you bring some very valuable insight into the collaborative process. Do you find that the applicants are comfortable with the process when they are sent to the zoning board of appeals?
No.
And is there a way that you feel we could make that process easier for them, whether it be through the town's website?
It's tricky because when they're going there's so many different reasons they could be going in front of the board. But it definitely, when they go there, they're very confused. And I think it'd be tricky because, again, you'd have to direct people to the website, and it would almost have to be like a Q&A. Like, like a lot of times you go to a lot of different websites, they say this is, the problem, and this is the answer, to kind of walk people through the process. But there's so many different things they could be going in front of. But the biggest thing that you get from people is that they think that, okay, well, this is my house, I can do whatever I want. Why am I, so they already come very adversarial, I want to do this, why can't, I've been living in town my whole life, why can't I do this? And then, so it is kind of puts us at a disadvantage, because, we don't want it to be adversarial, that, okay, no, it is your home, we're trying to help you, but you have to understand that this is a property, and this goes with the property, this isn't personal, this isn't you, this is the property, after you move out, this stays with the property, and that's some of the things that we, that we deal with. But I think it would be good to have as many scenarios you can come up with, and even as many as I've seen, there's always people that come up that's a little different. So.
And could I just ask you one more question, if
Sure.
I could, Madam Chairman? Our zoning bylaws seem to be quite old.
Yes.
And probably in need of some real updating. So do you think that would be helpful as well, to help the work of the zoning board of appeals as well as the residents?
Definitely, because I've done a lot of work in other towns, and of course, as you imagine, the power, the permitting is unbelievable. So I've seen a lot of towns, and of course, the towns closer to Boston, they're a little bit better, they're, a little more friendly electronically, you can really, get a lot more information out of it. So I do think that, some updating would be helpful, as well as some electronic improvements that, a lot of people could research things online without having to go to the building inspector, or having to go, to the actual town hall to get the information. They can do the research that way. That would probably, some of them are very interactive. You can really get a lot of information on the website, and I think that would help. And then also, revamping some of the, zoning is always changing. Times are always changing, so it is a constant, things. An assisted living, for example, is a relatively new thing. A lot of towns don't even recognize it. So there's a lot of things like that that make it tricky. So it is, as times change, things are added that are not covered in the bylaws. So you have to kind of, kind of try to squeeze your way into different, categories that may not be a good fit, because the zoning bylaws don't cover it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam Chairman, do you mind? I didn't have any questions, but a couple things I want to ask.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
No, you're okay, Eric, don't worry. General questions.
Yes.
What is it you like about being on the zoning board of appeals as an alternate?
I think it's a way to give back to the community, and again, it's a volunteer position, and I think I bring an interesting perspective from my engineering background. Everybody has different backgrounds, and I think with my experience, I bring the engineering aspect as well as a business owner's perspective to the table. Granted, my business is very unique, and I almost don't feel like it's a business, but still, I can really empathize with a lot of business come through there, what they're trying to do, as well as, I want, to maintain a certain feel of the town as well. I don't want, again, I know that, we don't want to have this town turned into, Las Vegas Strip down, the Route 1. So, I have a vested interest in keeping the town the way it is. So I definitely like to feel like I'm making a difference. It's been,
You
it's
touched
fun.
on the sign bylaws.
Yes.
What is it that you like about the sign bylaws, and what is it you don't like about the sign bylaws?
It's one of those things where it's tricky, because the way the zoning bylaws are set up, pretty much no sign on Route 1 complies. So as a business owner, so somebody, again, when you're buying business, you're not thinking there's already a sign there, and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna buy this business, I'm gonna start here, and you go to do it, and then all of a sudden you go to the building inspector, like, oh, you're denied. Like, what do you mean denied? There's already a sign here. So it does make it tricky for, again, adds another layer of business, and again, they have to wait. Now, I know, because I've been involved in other projects, that when you buy a business, you're paying rent, and you're trying to get going, and now all of a sudden you're trying to do this and you can't, and now you have to, wait the 45 days, hire an attorney, so it adds a whole other process. So that's where it gets kind of dicey on some of those, on some of those ends. Again, I'm not an expert by any means on, on all the, different, bylaws, but there's definitely the sign bylaw, it's tricky. It's a double-edged sword, because you want to look out for everybody's safety. You're driving the highway, you don't want them crashing because you got these blinking lights and all these issues, but you also don't want to cause an accident because they're not seeing the sign in time and getting there, and you don't want to hurt that business, because now if people can't see them, they don't know they're there, they're going to go out of business, which is a bad thing for everybody. So it definitely, I don't know if I know the answer to exactly what needs to be changed, but definitely there needs to be some compromise in some way to make it easier for businesses, we want to attract businesses, we want to keep them, and that's one of the things that I hear, when I'm in other towns, oh, you're in Saugus, oh geez, I tried to do a business there, but I always, Saugus is business unfriendly, and I hear that a lot, and I'm like, not really, but, so it does kind of hurt things, or, they'll try to do something in Saugus and it fails because they can't direct people there. So it would be nice to make things easier for
We follow
these
up on the
businesses.
signs. Several years ago, when I was on the board the first time, we were interviewing somebody here, the same position you're in right now. And the issue of signs came up. The Border Cafe had just relocated over to where it is now. And they wanted to put a sign on the back of their building facing the parking lot of, what do you call that mall there?
I don't
You know where I mean.
Yeah, I don't.
How do you feel about a sign on the back of a building like that?
I know, of course, it's not the bylaw for that, but I mean, something like that, I would think it would really be needed, because no one's gonna really see, unless you're at the other malls, you're looking your way out. But I mean, again, it would be up to the applicant and, the board, I mean, definitely would consider it. I don't see what the harm would be, but typically with the sign, it is to help people see it and also help them to get into the main entrance. So, something
I don't
like
see
that.
any harm in it either, that's why I'm asking. It was
Yeah.
denied by the town.
Yeah,
Because
again,
the sign bylaws only allow one sign over the front door, unless there's a physical exception to that, but that was turned down by the Board of Appeals.
I wasn't an alternate, and I actually wasn't there for that. I'd have to listen to the applicant why they wanted to do that, and if they had a good reason, then I'd definitely consider it. But shooting from the hip, I would think that it wouldn't be needed. It could be confusing. But again, I'd have to see the drawings and see what their purpose is and how they were gonna do that. To make again, I wasn't there, so I can't really comment on it. But like I said,
No, I'm not asking you to comment on the decision. I just want to know what your feeling is about having a sign that is non-conforming to the bylaws we have right now. You don't need to go on, I understand what
I
you're
mean,
coming from.
usually like when I'm an alternate, what I try to do is when somebody comes up with something, I try to find ways, kind of think of ways to try to get it a little more conforming. So if they're trying to, whatever they're trying to do, I say, okay, well, can you scale this way or do this to make it a little bit more conforming? Try to do stuff like that. So same thing with signs. So if it's non-conforming, but if they have a good reason, okay, well, there is a second entrance there, and people from that come in the mall, when they come out, they'll be able to see it. Yeah, I mean, and again, it's all to help the business. Whatever's going to help the business, the way I look at it, I mean, I definitely want to do what we can to keep business in town, but on the other hand, I also want to do things that are going to help the town too. You don't want to, have these big giant red arrows pointing at the business, flashing, and it'll help the business, but now it's hurting the town, and it's so it's kind of that you don't want to compromise. You want to help the business, but you also don't want to do things that can be detrimental to the town either.
All right, let's take it a step further then.
Sure.
The electronic reader boards.
Yes.
We allow what, 4 changes a day?
6 changes in a 24
6 changes, okay.
in a 24-hour period, but yeah, so it's
6 changes in a 24-hour period.
And only
Businesses are
Amber.
spending tens of thousands of dollars for these signs,
right.
and they're not being utilized in the manner in which they should be. In my opinion, how do you feel about them?
That's a tough one because I look at it from both ways. As a business owner, I understand the importance of a reader board, the importance of the convenience of being able to change it and have colors and everything, which I think is great. So on that standpoint, I think there should be more leniency in that. But on a safety standpoint, when you're driving down Route 1, that's where it gets tricky because you don't want people, reading too much. And that's where it's a tough one because on one hand it's the business needs it, that's good, but the other hand it can get really bad. I mean, I look at the Fat Cactus, for example. I mean, they have an animated sign that's going all over the place there, and it definitely catches your eye to the point where it could be an issue. I think
Has anybody ever checked into the accident situation by the Fat Cactus?
not to my knowledge. I mean, I'm sure that there would be something. I mean, I personally think that they should be allowed more change, especially for reasons. But I mean, definitely flashing. I'd be definitely against anything that's flashing or changing too often for that reason. But I definitely think they should be allowed more changes, and the color thing. I mean, the 3 color. I mean, it's like I said, I'm kind of back and forth on it. And I mean, the businesses need it, right? They do pay a lot of money for them, and they are important. I mean, we have companies in town that even own a sign company, so it's kind of like, again, I can see both sides, and it's I definitely think more compromising needs to get done. But again, when I see some of these literally TV screens going, I've been at Peabody, there's some foot doctor there, and he's got this
Yeah.
like LED
Yeah.
screen going, and it's like I think that's an overkill. But I think they should be allowed more colors, and they should be allowed more, more changes, based on the type of business they have.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman, can I just ask one more question?
Please.
Sure.
Mr. Rubin,
Yes.
are you familiar with signage overlay districts?
Signage overlay districts?
Much like our mixed use.
Oh, it's,
zoning.
okay, I was gonna say,
Right.
yeah.
Do you think an overlay district specific to one area of the community where signage would be allowed within reason adopted by the community would be beneficial? So that, for instance, a
Like Route
corridor
1.
like Route 1,
Yeah.
those types of signs deemed appropriate by the town would be allowed
A lot of
versus in
towns
other
do that.
communities. Are you familiar with
Yes,
that?
a lot of towns
Do you think that
have.
would help and possibly reduce the number of applicants forced to come before the Board of Appeals? Again, spelling out the town's expectations, but bringing the zoning up to what is current in most communities.
That is interesting, because you're right, because most of your reader boards would be on Route 1. I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody that's come, actually a gas station, they actually wanted little TVs on there, thing, the one down Hamilton Street. But other than that, I don't think there's that many reader boards outside of Route 1, so that's actually a really good idea. Do something like that, have, handle that a little separately, because I mean, again, it would be nice to help these businesses speed up the ability to get a sign and help them out, I mean, other big one is the Square One Mall. Every time a new business comes in and out, they have to go in front of the board to change it, which is already like an existing sign. So yeah, someone like that would, I mean, I feel they should be able to come in and just.
Madam Chairman, again through you, I just think what you're saying as far as the adversarial nature of your board and applicants coming frustrated and angry,
Yes,
not understanding why they're there,
exactly.
and bylaws that are not as current as we would like. I mean, I think there's a pathway to improving the situation. And I just
I-
wondered where you've worked in other communities as well, whether
I'm
you
definitely.
think as a member of the Board of Appeals that would be helpful to you.
I never thought of that, but I think that's a very interesting. I think that would help. I mean, I remember one hearing I sat in for the for Walgreens, and the guy came up. I think he built like 300 and something of them. This is the hardest one that he ever had to put in, and that really put in perspective. Sitting there, I was actually in the audience, and I was like, wow, this guy's built over 300 of these Walgreens, and this is the hardest one he ever put in. So that really kind of shot home with me, because they had to change everything. Because a lot of these big companies have certain logos, certain colors, and everything, and they've been doing this for some of them over 100 years, and every town, all of a sudden they come to Saugus and like, what do you mean I can't do my logo this way? I got to change this or I got to change that, and it really kind of opens my eyes when I hear people like that. Like, over 300 Walgreens built. This is the hottest.
I
one.
remember the Walgreens issue. They had awnings over all their windows.
Yes.
With a W on the awning.
Yes.
The town made them change the awnings.
Yeah, that was one of
W.
them.
I mean, I think we go overboard sometimes
I
and
think,
things like that.
again, through you, Madam Chairman, when you said that at times Saugus is deemed business unfriendly, I'm
That's
just
what I
trying to
figured.
think of ways that we can make it easier for a resident or a business with clear expectations.
It definitely would. Again, as a member of the zoning board, it's also kind of hard, because you're there to basically, even if you don't agree, you have to uphold it. So, so as a member, I might look at something and say, this would be the right thing to do, but I got to uphold what's in the bylaws, and that's really all we can do. So that does make it kind of tricky. We even said to me, I said, we understand what you're saying, but this is what we have to do. But getting back to it would be nice to come up with some way to help business owners come in. Again, because I've been on the other side and had friends do certain things, and they said it's very difficult, because now the first 3 months when they're not making any income, they're spending more money and they're delaying their opening, so it really hurts them. And then when they get the business started, they're already behind. So it would be nice to come up with some way to help these business owners that are trying to come into town and start a business, get that business making income for them so they can sustain it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Really quick, Madam Chair.
Sure.
But just to your point, Selectman Dever, I think that you talked about using the web more often and
Yes.
putting more things up on the web. But I think what would also be really important is to have maybe like Vimeos, like little 3 minutes to 5 minutes. This is what you need when you need to file X, and somebody
agree.
actually talking to you. I think that if we had a whole series that was up on our
Tutorials,
website,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
tutorials, I think
good
that would be
idea.
really helpful, both for residents and for businesses.
I absolutely agree, because as a new selectman this term,
YouTube,
going
the
into
YouTube page.
Yes.
look for information to educate myself on the town's website,
That's a great. But
we
there's
really
a lot of
could
things.
use, some work there, and it could be really beneficial to everyone.
It would, because it would be easier when people come in front of the board, to know what they're in store for, and and even let them know that they should let their neighbors know. Because I can't tell how many meetings where you know, they know what they're doing, but all these neighbors show because they have no clue, and they're spending a half hour, 45 minutes answering questions that they could have probably done prior to the meeting by talking to their neighbors, because I have neighbors come up, oh yeah, okay, I'm good now, I've heard everything, now I understand what's going on, I'm okay, but they could have maybe, you know, that.
When you get a mob scene.
Yeah, let them know.
Because people
you
are
know.
very upset.
They are. And that's another piece of the, you know, listen, if you come in front of the board to do this challenge, you might wanna talk to your neighbors prior to the meeting so they know what's going on, so they don't have to show up to the meeting to actually to see the plans and see the prints and do things like that. But definitely,
Do you have any further questions about Eric?
I do know, like I said, I've been an
Okay.
alternate for a while, so I,
Sure, you seem to pretty much know all your stuff.
Wow,
We do have
don't know
one.
that.
We do have one more applicant to
Oh.
interview,
excellent.
and we will be making our decision relatively shortly. Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate you
much.
coming in.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you
Nice
very
to
much.
meet you.
Nice to meet
Same
you.
here.
Take care.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.